The following is brought to you by AB Puppy, Just Another Pilot, and Daily Tech News Show.
Welcome, everybody, to the Politics program for September 11th, 2024. Your old pal, Justin Robert Young, joining you here. And it's our post-debate recap. I have brought along the one and only Kirk Bado, the Hotline Editor of the National Journal. How you doing, buddy?
My friend, anytime I get to talk politics with you, I know I'm doing something right, especially after a night like this.
Give me your top line. What the hell did we just watch?
My top line was, I think that Harris just tried to put Trump's campaign in the pet cemetery. I mean, they really went after, she met every expectation. This was always going to be much more about Harris than it was Trump. And she turned in the best debate performance, I think, of her career. She made it all about Trump. She flustered him. He took the bait every chance he got. And she really strong, really presidential.
Are you aware what happens when you put people in a pet cemetery, though?
They come back to life, and that's why I don't think this is done. This is definitely not done. Trump's coming back from a hell of a lot worse than what we saw tonight. So that's why
sometimes dead is better, as Pet Cemetery taught us. I disagree with you. I have not seen a lot of the feedback. This is just my read from watching it, but Donald Trump has now broken the record for the most times that anybody has debated on television to be president of the United States. And he is at 7. Nobody else has gotten over 6. He was exactly who we thought he was. He's rambling. He left stuff on the table. But I think that he left stuff on the table because I don't think that Kamala Harris did a great job. Now, could you say it's the best of her career? Yes, considering I just watched all of her other debates over the weekend. This was her better than she was before. My problem with her is that she was essentially a cover band for Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton. Some of the lines were almost verbatim things that have been said by both of those candidates previously. And if your entire point is, I am a new way forward, I am turning the page, we're going away from the divisive old ways of the past, then bringing up the Central Park 5 as a character point to Donald Trump is not a way to do that. And by the time that she got to her points of I have a plan, another cover song of Elizabeth Warren's, right, it was a little bit late into the process. She felt like a blender of a lot of modern democratic ideas, to which I just don't quite know whether or not that is the definitional element for voters who still want to know more about her, especially considering that Donald Trump did what he wanted to do, which is say, you're a radical, you're a Marxist, and she didn't have anything else to say to that.
I do think that, yes, there was a little bit more of the Biden playbook, but I think what we got to remember is that Biden's the only one who's defeated Trump in a general election here. That what the advantage of Harris, which I thought you saw pretty early on, when she got that question about abortion and really just found her footing in that, she was able to prosecute that case against Trump in ways that Biden just could not. I mean, we flash back 70 some odd days ago when Biden got asked a question about abortion. He pivoted really hard into
the migrant crime,
about immigrant crime, like literally just like serving Trump a big softball right up the middle. Harris was able to take that question, prosecute the case against Trump, talked about plainly in language, talked about the overturning of Roe v. Wade, how it's impacting Americans, tie it back to Trump. And Trump really struggled to have an answer there. So I think that, yes, while the message might be the same, it's the messenger that really matters right now, especially for Democrats and even those independent leaning voters who might, the quarter of voters or so in that New York Times poll who want to know more about Harris. Yeah. What we saw tonight was someone who could articulate a case and at least articulate some sort of vision, even if it's a microwave version of what Biden was saying.
100%. I agree with you. I also think that is a limbo bar that is below the floor. If we are saying, yes, she prosecuted the abortion case better than Joe Biden, because that was an answer that literally ended his career. So effective, yes, that she was able to
not tripping over the low bar is where we're at right now. But at the same time, like to your point, though, this is probably going to be the only time that we see Harris and Trump on the stage together, and probably going to be the biggest mass audience either of them are going to have before early voting starts in about 2 weeks here.
Yeah. All right. So let me just go through some of the lines here that I wrote down. And again, this is going to be a shaggier episode, listeners, because we are doing this immediately after the debate has ended.
But Justin, as you're looking that up, can I ask you your thoughts on some breaking news that happened?
Yeah, of course.
Just now.
Uh-huh.
Yes. How does that change the game? Is it over now?
I mean, Donald Trump sure going to have to shake it off, right? You know, I think Democratic forces know all too well that she is somebody that will turn out a certain class of voters.
Well, she is a childless cat lady. She will probably call Trump the smallest man who has ever lived. And now for us, now we got to go back to following the tortured pollsters department and see how this debate really played out.
Yes. There we go. You know, it's interesting that she endorsed now. There was a wave of conversation about the fact that she was out at the U.S. Open with Brittany Mahomes, who had said that she was going to vote for Trump. And does that mean that she's not going to endorse Harris? So interesting. But there we go. I'll tell you what, why, get down to the liars and the dirty cheats of the world when you can be getting down to this sick beat when it comes to Taylor
Not in
Swift
my wildest dreams that I think that we'd be discussing this on this podcast. I'm happy that we're here right now doing this together.
I mean, I have a blank space and we're going to fill it with that Taylor Swift news. Donald Trump left us. That was, again, I think a Biden line given more effectively by Kamala Harris. What I think is devoid with her is a personality, something that takes you inside where she was and gives you a sense of, I guess, a pulse. That is ultimately the issue with any kind of politician that is running deliberately against Trump, is that oftentimes, whether or not it's because they think it's the most effective strategy or they just don't have that gear, they tend to not want to center themselves and say, not just here's what Donald Trump left us, but bring us into that conversation by saying, I was in the Situation Room when I first got the briefing. This many dead, this many jobs lost, this much blah, blah, blah. I offered something to Joe Biden, blah, blah, blah. And that's why I'm an awesome person that should run for president. There's just, everything is very surface. And I think this was delivered well, but ultimately left something to be desired.
I did think that there was one section, though, in that debate where she did talk about her contributions, and it was during the foreign policy section, especially on Ukraine, where she was able to really draw a contrast with Trump. And she talked about how she delivered that message to Vladimir Zelensky a few days before the invasion. She was the one who was tasked with delivering that intelligence, talking about her experience there. She did talk a little bit about how she agreed with the Biden decision and urged him to pull out of Afghanistan there. That was a little bit muddled, but I do understand your point that we don't necessarily, what are the big stories from Harris's time from the White House that we remember here? What images does that invoke? And at least for me, I keep thinking back to that Lester Holt interview where she talked about how, I haven't been to Europe, when he asked her about, have you been to the border? So that's the thing I think that really sticks in my mind. And if it's not that for voters, then it's to your Taylor Swift point earlier, it's a blank space about what her roles were. And Trump is trying to fill that in with the borders are attacks. She was the mastermind of the Afghanistan pullout. And I don't think she necessarily did a great job of filling in her own space in that tonight. The problem is the problem for Republicans is that Trump was just everywhere tonight in ways that I don't think that we were all fully prepared for.
We weren't? What did we watch the other 6 debates for? He did the same thing he did the other 6 debates.
No, I think that from the recent one, I mean, the Biden collapse there, just Biden's poor performance really overshadowed what he was saying.
Yeah.
And I think that even I think we were primed for this for the last day and a half, but doubling and tripling down on the that false rumor about the Haitian immigrants eating pets in Ohio, I thought that was out of complete left field there, especially when all the expectations set before the debate from Republicans were about how Trump is going to tie Harris to Biden. It was about how he was going to be much more disciplined on policy. And he was the same old Trump here. So if we're judging it by the metrics that they put out, Trump had a really bad debate.
I mean, I guess, I don't know. I'm just like, fool me 5 times, shame on me. Fool me the next 2, or shame on you, then shame on me. He's the same dude. He only goes one speed, and that's Trump. And the only thing is, can his high points negate his low points? And I agree with you. Going with the Haitian immigrants are eating cats and dogs thing, who knows where that's going to end up as we continue to delve into the personal lives of pet owners in Springfield, Ohio. But it was certainly early to make that a first 30-minute point in a debate that is watched globally. It's not something that I think is necessarily going to turn votes. Similarly, I thought his answers on January 6th were terrible. And there were a lot of times where I think that she didn't answer questions, and he could have gotten to what I thought was, the line of the night for Trump that he got to at the very end in his closing statements was simply this: why hasn't she done it?
Yes.
It is the catch-all skeleton key to literally anything that she wants to say, especially when she wants to talk about being the new breath of fresh air that's going to bring America to prosperity. Why hasn't she done it? And you can say the answer from Democrats is because she's vice president. Well, then that would demand that you separate yourself from the president if you want to really do these things.
Well, it was really striking during the first almost 3/4 of this debate how aggressive Harris was going after Trump, how Trump took the bait every time. You would have thought that Trump was the incumbent and not Harris here. It was only, to your point, toward the end there where he finally started saying, well, why didn't you do something? Why didn't you do something? Earlier in the debate, he did talk about signing a bill or having the president do an executive order to shut down the border. And why hasn't that happened yet? I thought that was an effective line of attack for Trump. But I don't think that he was able to highlight those points in ways that his low points were able to outshine those, if that made sense.
Yeah. All right. So let me get to the viral moments, because the 2 viral moments, and we'll see obviously in the TikTok universe, which small kind of moments wind up going viral, but it was the reversal of Kamala Harris and Mike Pence in that 2020 debate where she kept saying, I'm speaking. I'm talking now. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, and then another one later.
He knows
quiet,
exactly what he's doing.
What was that?
Exactly what he knows exactly what he was doing with that.
Let's dispense with this fiction, Kirk. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Exactly, and that's I think to your point, one of the moments that is going to go viral. I would also throw in there a lot of the body language that Harris was doing. She was really focused on looking at him while he was talking or while she was delivering her rebuttals. Trump couldn't look over at her, but she almost couldn't help herself sometimes from like stifling a laugh or like make it like doing the gif of the surprise blinks or whatever.
Surprise white guy gif. Yeah,
exactly. She was really like emoting up there in ways that we haven't.
What do you think about the finger cloud? That was another move where she kind of did the like finger under the chin, like please go on.
I can see a lot of reaction gifs coming from that. Yeah, from this debate here pretty soon, hitting the timeline.
I was talking to my live stream audience that I would be shocked, considering the best moment that Kamala Harris has ever had in a debate was barbecuing Joe Biden in the first debate of the 2019 primary of That Little Girl Was Me. That night, she put out a T-shirt of her as a little girl with That Little Girl Was Me on it. I was wondering what one-liner was going to be that for them, that if it really hits, we're going to get shirts immediately. And I don't know. I have not looked at Twitter to see whether or not anything is up right now. My assumption was you're running against me. And that was something that I think she kind of botched, because Trump was actually disciplined about not talking about Joe Biden. The only time that he really did is he got into a Burisma thing, but it wound up going into a commercial break, so it didn't go back to Kamala. But what did you think about your running against me?
I thought that was a good one. You can almost see like the screen printed T-shirt with that caption underneath, like the Shepard Farley poster of Kamala Harris or something like that. I also thought that when she called Trump, she had that dramatic pause. This former president could also become some merch as well. I thought that was a strong moment, or one of those engineered viral moments, like the "you're running against me," that we could see her try to slap on some merch.
Let's go to some of the more unhinged moments from both of these candidates. Donald Trump just blurting out, "I probably took a bullet to the head because of these people."
I immediately just like got electrified in my chair when he said that. You and I were both at the RNC, and we were there for his first public comments since the assassination attempt. And I think even in the moment when he said, "I'm only going to talk about this once because it's too painful," we were both kind of rolling our eyes at that.
Yeah.
But for those 20 minutes of his 90-minute acceptance speech, it was
legit touching
at that.
Yeah.
It was very touching. I think it was the most humanizing he's ever been on a stage that big. But ever since then, he's used that as kind of a political crutch to hold himself up and also beat Democrats with. And tonight was no exception.
I am of the belief that Donald Trump has tremendously unresolved PTSD, as I think anybody would if they almost got shot in the head on international television. This was the first time that I saw him show real venom toward somebody. I think that was a moment of him just being legit angry. I think that when he goes to sleep, one of the thoughts he has is, they ginned up people enough that somebody tried to kill me. They got me shot. Yeah. I do think that is something that we saw spill out. I have no idea how that's going to play. I just think that it is an intensely fascinating moment in American history to watch somebody who survived an assassination attempt say, "Your words almost got me killed on live television."
I mean, it's just a completely bonkers moment. And it comes off of Olivia Nuzzi just had that big sit down with him at Mar-a-Lago where he talked about the ear and everything and his fascination with where the bullet hit him and everything. I think you are spot on that he has a lot of unresolved. Again, neither of us are doctors here, Liz. I'm not a doctor. That he has a lot of unresolved emotions.
I'm violating the Goldwater rule. I'm violating the Goldwater rule. I'm saying I, as a totally unlicensed therapist, believe he has tremendous untreated PTSD. I don't think that he is sitting down with somebody every single day and doing therapy to work through the trauma of what might be one of the more horrifying things that could happen to a human. To almost have your head exploded on television in the midst of what he is going through now, after what he has gone through before, is nightmare stuff, right? Like him, hate him, whatever. Like, if you are putting yourself in that position, that's horrifying. I don't think he's doing any work on it. I think he is burying himself in this campaign.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't, if that kettle of bile is going to be there, what you saw was something fall out of it and acid burn the pavement.
But think about it like this. His campaign is selling photo books with the photo on the cover of it is that iconic picture of him, like, getting helped up with the Secret Service blood all over his face, the American flag behind him. What we're watching here in all these public appearances, and I think the debate was the most watched one, is him kind of working that out in real time.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously there's less of a high road as one might have initially thought, but then again, I didn't almost get shot in the head, so I'll leave that to him to deal with it. Let me go to. Let me talk about the moderators here, because what did you think of the CNN moderators? Dana Bash and Jake Tapper.
I'm glad you brought this up, because it was something that I was clocking a lot during this one, was just the contrast between Dana Bash and Jake Tapper and David Muir and Lindsay Davis. The CNN team took a little bit more of a less is more approach to their moderating. They were very much trying to get this debate moving along. They were, this is a tremendously stressful task under the best of circumstances. They had it under some pretty harsh circumstances of one candidate not able to really articulate, complete a sentence, or follow a thought. And then you also had Joe Biden up there as well. Yeah. You had a lot of things going against them there, and they decided to let the candidates talk for themselves. This one was a lot more aggressive. We saw a lot of fact checking, a lot of follow-up questions, which I really appreciated. I thought that was one of my big complaints from the first debate, is that they would let things go without really following up. Not only did they have those several live fact checks in there, it started with the, post-birth abortions, I believe, early on. Yeah. And then there was the fact check on the Haitian immigrants eating pets in Ohio. There were a few more in there toward the end as well, but they were taking a much more visible role. That was definitely a choice that ABC made. And you already saw on Twitter, I had Republican operatives reaching out to me, complaining about the refs a lot more than the Democrats were. And I think it's going to provide a handy little excuses for Trump's poor performance tonight, is that it's a tag team match, basically, of the Democrats and the media versus Trump here.
I think we might have a slight philosophical disagreement, because I tend to hew more to the CNN topic. I think that you should, as a moderator, lean really hard into the questions. The questions should be very specific and very blistering. Like I am on the Bernard Shaw, would you Dukakis, like if somebody raped and murdered your wife, would you give them the death penalty level of questions? I'm fine with that. Give the most unhinged questions you can think.
But be direct
at that point. But be direct. And then at that point, let them go, because what we don't want is, I am not a fan of the fact check. Like, just because if you're going to do it, then it becomes like a basketball foul, where you have to think like, okay, I tagged this person here. Where on the level of, foul should I then fact check somebody on the other side?
What's the makeup call should I do here?
Exactly. Yeah. And that gets, I think it puts the moderators in a bad position. And I think that it doesn't really add a lot, when what we really want is to just roll out the ball and let these two argue. Like, I think that, especially in our modern world, what we really want is for them to do this, just be on a podcast and talk to each other about X, Y, or Z. And we'll just see who they really are, because part of this is a revelation of who they are as people. Part of it is their policy positions. What I would say is that Trump fought less with the refs than he has in the past. That was my note, is that he would often go back and forth. I think he only did it once, where he got into a like David kind of thing. Mostly he just let the fact check roll, and they went to Kamala.
I am surprised that he didn't call out that they're only fact checking me a little bit more. Yeah, he got into an argument with David, like you said, over some of his follow-up questions, but he wasn't keeping score in his head like you normally see him do. Yeah. Now, what he posts on Truth Social in the next few hours, might look like he's keeping score a little bit more here. But it was surprising to me that he kind of enjoyed mixing it up with the moderators, but didn't directly start calling that this is unfair, that this is rigged, that, we have a lawsuit against ABC right now. Like, this was rigged from the start, and I'm doing my best here. That he kind of let the debate happen around him. And I wonder if that's because he was flustered with Harris, or if he was just really locked in on what was going on in front of him.
I do think that he took the last debate to heart and thought, all right, if I'm fighting with everybody, then it is worse. I think the one thing on his seventh debate that I do think he realized is that while less is more, you can't always count on your opponent's brains falling out of his mouth in the first 5 minutes. And so there was less of it. I don't think he was 2020 first debate bad. So no, I would say that was probably, of the 7, by far his worst, was that, like, even as he was winning in the first 10 minutes, he could not shut up and just eventually made Joe Biden feel sympathetic. Here, wherever we want to score it is where we want to score it. But he was mostly cordial with the moderators.
What did you make of, speaking of cordial, what did you make of the handshake? Because I was watching ABC News afterwards, and that was the first thing that they brought up in the post-debate analysis, was that we actually had a handshake for the first time between these two since 2016. Do you think that might have thrown him off a little bit? Do you think he was surprised by that? I mean, again, we're talking about a little bit more cordial. And again, we're not talking about the new tone Trump or anything like that. That's not what we're talking about here. But just
that was a manufactured moment by Kamala, right? Because she charged into enemy territory to give him the handshake and introduced herself, which was interesting, was to say, "Hi, Kamala Harris." And she Trump's response was, "Have fun."
Yeah. Which was really interesting. I just wanted to hear what you thought about that, because I thought it was an odd, a stiff moment.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess this gets back into so much of Kamala is preset. And I think it is to her advantage. When I went back and watched all of her debate tape over the weekend, she's not great at improv. The more that she gets into open space, the worse it is. I actually thought that she was better for having the mics muted, because she does not want to, like, even Trump at his age that he is now is a far quicker person than she is. She is more prone to freezing. She is frozen in almost every single debate. She didn't really do it here. She mostly avoided word salads. But that was obviously something that they wanted to be there. They wanted her to be presenting herself as a prosecutorial lawyer would to a defense attorney. She wanted to walk up, shake their hand, introduce herself, very businesslike, move to the podium. I'm glad that it happened, because I do think that at a certain point, and I think I've said this in the past, Kennedy and Nixon after 1960, and this was kind of an accident, but they had lunch together like a week and a half after the election. It was an extraordinarily close election. I think that should be made tradition. Like, nobody else is in the room. Y'all can walk in, scream at each other if you want, whatever it is. But just you guys, in the room. You went into a room for 30 minutes and then you left. That's it. I think that is good for the nation. It is good for politics. It is good for society, that at the end of it, you can look at each other and that can be that, because the more that you drift apart, the worse it is. So I was glad to see the civility there, even if I do think that it was a bit of a manufactured moment. I was glad that Trump didn't spit anything nasty. He said, "Have fun."
Right. He engaged with it. And I'm with you that the more we have those type of more cordial norms between the two parties, because again, I don't think we talk enough. Like, we obviously focus on everything that happened in January 6th and all the lawsuits and everything during the transition, and Trump's refusal to concede, his still continued refusal to concede as we saw tonight. But one of the things that we also lost in that was the traditional, like, first families visiting each other at the White House and everything, and the presidential note, or, the first ladies meeting each other. Like, all of that was just been out the window. And, while it's stiff, it can be a little, much. It's an important symbol of that congeniality and the transition of power.
And also, I think it's not a weak thing. Like it's kind of an alpha thing. And I think that's what she wanted. That's what Kamala wanted to do, was to take charge and walk up and be the one. If he wasn't going to come up, then don't shy away, especially don't stall halfway and then sheepishly walk back to your podium. If he doesn't meet you, chase him down, shake his hand. What did you think about Kamala Harris, the gun owner? Were you aware that Kamala Harris owned a gun?
She said that, and I was very surprised by it. But I had my friend Jacob Bruce-Bastian, actually from Inside Elections, sent me a CNN article from 2019.
That was out there. Yeah.
Yeah, that I apparently was unaware of during that primary, that talked about her owning a gun and everything. I thought that was interesting that we had never heard her talk about it at this stage, at this big of a stage. Like, I haven't heard it at any of her rallies. I haven't heard her in any of her ads. But to just say, Tim Walz and I, we're gun owners, we get it. And that was, she did that shortly after she talked about the late, great John McCain. And if you could have...
Which I think is verbatim a Biden line, by the way.
Right.
I believe that is verbatim a Biden line.
If you could have thrown in there something about being a pro-business moderate, I mean, that's bingo right there. That's all the boxes checked for those independent voters that she's trying to reach with the paint by numbers stuff there.
This is all right. So I feel like I'm crystallizing here as we're talking through our feelings. Like,
we're doing it just like Trump. We're processing in real time.
We're processing right now. This is your update, brought to you by TakePoliticsSeriously.com. That is where you need to go if you would like to get 2 bonus episodes each and every week. And this is the time to do it. We're in the home stretch now, baby. We're in the end game, and the place you need to go to make sure that you are never out of the loop. When the October surprise happens, when the September surprise happens, when the November surprise that happens 3 days before the election happens, you need to make sure that this is not a day that falls in between all the other regular schedule. You get the 2 bonus podcasts. I mean, look, if I can't sell you on it now, I can't sell you on it ever. All right? TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Obviously, all the news on the debate. Here's stuff we didn't have a chance to cover. Mayor Eric Adams is facing a tough decision regarding New York Police Department Commissioner Edward Caban, who is caught up in a federal investigation. Caban's home was raided, his phone seized, and as of yet, he has refused to step down. Adams is known for his loyalty to his aides. Of course, Adams came out of the police department as well, and yet many believe now's the time for Caban to hit the exits. The case is further complicated by the racial dynamics, as Caban, the first Latino commissioner, appears to be treated differently from other black officials also under investigation. Removing Caban could hurt Adams politically, yet allowing him to stay may compromise national security due to potential loss of clearance that's going to happen when he's under investigation. There's more to this Eric Adams story. One of the things that we knew all the way back then when we were covering this race for New York mayor is that Eric Adams is a bit of a smooth operator. He plays fast and loose. He has no hesitation, bold-faced lying. Let's remember, in that election, it was assuredly proven that Eric Adams didn't live in New York City. He lived in Jersey. And he, with a straight face, brought reporters to his son's apartment and said, I live here. Didn't even clean stuff up. It looked like a 20-something's apartment. And he's like, yep, I stay here. My son's here too, but I stay here. I think we're going to get more. I think we're going to get more with Mayor Adams. Congress is approaching a potential government shutdown with no bipartisan plan in place just yet, and there is a further complication. While House Republicans are pushing a 6-month stopgap that would lack sufficient support as of right now, President Biden has threatened to veto it. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is urging Republicans to force a shutdown unless Democrats agree to a separate election security bill requiring ID to register to vote. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is calling for bipartisan negotiations, while Senate GOP leader Mitch McConnell says he opposes a shutdown. Some Republicans, like Senate Whip John Thune, criticizes the long-term stopgap's negative impact on military readiness. Congressional leaders must act before the month's end to avoid a shutdown just before November's elections. Usually, this is not the time when a shutdown becomes an issue. Usually, you punt this just so nobody is talking about Congress. Everybody is talking about the presidential race, and you can go from there. I don't know the wisdom of Donald Trump interjecting himself into this. I don't think it is a great reminder of the stewardship of government that you can expect with Donald Trump at the helm. But it's very obvious based on his all caps Truth Social today that he very much believes that there needs to be some kind of federal regulation on voter ID. And I will say, I criticize Donald Trump a lot for being a pee pants loser after 2020 because he complained about the election after it happened. He was not making noise about stuff before it happened. Yet a lot of these COVID regulations that went into place, different ways that people could vote. All right, and now you're going to complain about it? No. Play the game while the game is going. Don't complain about it when the clock hits 000. This is Donald Trump playing the game now. We'll see exactly how much he's trying to work the refs and how much he would really force a shutdown. But certainly one way to go about it. Finally, let's take a look at some internal National Republican Senate Committee polling, because it reveals something very interesting about where the Republicans believe money should be going to take the Senate in maybe the most favorable map they've had in 20 years, meaning that they are playing offense in almost all the states except for Florida and Texas, which are not flipping blue. And so you've got possible gains. Well, you've got almost assured gains in Montana and West Virginia. That already flips the Senate for you. Congratulations. Ring-a-ding-ding-ding-dong. Senate Majority Leader Schumer. Now you're party leader. And we're going to fight amongst the three Johns in the Senate to see who will be the leader of that chamber. But then you got some others. And Ohio still seems like the most likely. And according to the National Republican Senate Committee, their internal polls show that Sherrod Brown has a 2-point lead over Bernie Moreno. I continue to think I'm gonna go with our pal Evan Scrimshaw on this and say I think that's going to continue to close. I think Bernie Moreno is going to win that seat. But still, Sherrod Brown, tough incumbent. Like we said before, Jim Justice and his dump truck of a dog have a 34-point lead over the Democrat in West Virginia. Absolute wrap there. Tim Sheehy leads incumbent John Tester by 4 points in Montana. But take a look at this. Doing even better than Bernie Moreno in Ohio, according to these internal polls. Larry Hogan of Montana, or of Maryland. Larry Hogan, hon. Go get a water. No, that's more Pennsylvania. Hogan, Old Bay, The Wire, whatever. Maryland. Larry Hogan tied with Angela also Brooks. That right now is their number 3 best polling opportunity according to the National Republican Senatorial Committee. They have rosier pictures of some of the other races, including Ruben Gallego leading Republican Carrie Lake by 4 points in Arizona. That poll has Trump leading Harris by 1. So that would have Carrie Lake running 5 points behind Trump, which is actually not a bad poll for her. She has run far behind Trump in the past. So there we go. That's how the Republicans see things as we motor toward Election Day. If you would like to support the show, you can head on over, takepoliticsseriously.com. Sign up at the $3 level. You get 2 bonus podcasts each and every week. Let's get back to our debate breakdown. I am more down on Kamala's performance than you are. And I tend to land on the idea that if she is going to win this election, it is literally just because Donald Trump can't win one. Because that 48% is too hard of a ceiling. He has turned off too many people, and it is just simply impossible for him to get to the number that he needs to get to win. And part of it is that, like, I hate the fact that she hasn't done interviews for reasons exactly like what we just mentioned. Like, why isn't this an interview thing? Why doesn't she sit down with somebody and then in the middle of that say, man, yes, I said there was a mandatory gun buyback because I'm horrifyingly scarred by violence. But what was lost in that moment is that I think very seriously about gun ownership. I'm a gun owner. Like, these are X's and O's blocking and tackling of politics to shore these things up in a way that doesn't feel so sudden. And that was the crazy thing, is that she came back to that point, which was obviously a pre-planned thing, to say, hey, by the way, me and Tim Walz are both gun owners. Right. Which, number one, doesn't explain the point where she's on the record saying, I'm for a mandatory gun buyback. So it's like, if you're a gun owner, so you would willingly sell your gun to the government if it were mandatorily asked of you. But it was sudden. Like, I was like, wait a minute. When was that effect?
Again, like, you're bringing me more to your level here. I still think Kamala Harris had a good debate performance by the standards that she had set out to meet, which, again, artificially lowered and everything. I fully understand that. But if I'm trying to judge them both by the game plans that they projected, I do feel that if the whole point of this right now, and again, going back to the New York Times Siena College poll that showed about a quarter of voters still want to know more about Kamala Harris. If I am one of those voters, I am walking away from tonight still wanting to know more about Kamala Harris. Agreed. That the way that you fix that is you go and do interviews. You go and put yourself out there. Because, look, you're not going to get another debate, I bet. You probably won't agree to another debate. But what you can do is start flooding the zone a little bit with more interviews. Keep introducing yourself. Keep telling more about yourself. And not just with, the subway ride guys that Tim Walz did on the bus. Not just with, like, the TikTokers and the influencers. You want to still do those people who do, like, the nightly news. You still want to do network and cable TV. You still maybe Friendlies.
Why hasn't she done an MSNBC interview? This has been the craziest part of it. It's like, wait, hold on. You're telling me that you can't do a Joy Reid interview where the hardest question she's going to have is bravery? Tell me about it.
Do you think Drew Barrymore ruined that for her when she called her Kamala on her show? Do you think that just poisoned the water? And then you contrast that with Trump, who is doing a 6:40 call-in tomorrow morning with Fox and Friends. Yeah. Like, again, the bar is so low for her to do well and to introduce herself. Now, she met it tonight at the debate, at least in my mind. She needs to keep doing that because people still want to know her. People still want to know more about her. And you have an opportunity to do that.
That's ultimately why I think it's a miss for her, is because this was the chance. This was the chance. And the best they had on that, I think, they're trying to jam so much into so little. Like, there's no reason why her first interview had to be with Tim Walz. do an interview that's safe. Again, the Joy Reid interview. Do the Rachel Maddow interview where she's just going to talk about how amazing you are, and all you have to do is smile and nod. That will happen. It's there for you at any moment, whenever you want to do it. And then you can always say, I've done an interview, whether or not it was a tough one.
Exactly.
Then do the Tim Walz interview where you're sitting down and you're chuckling and you're talking more about, the thing I like about him is his jerky. What I don't like about him is he leaves his stinky shoes in the bus or whatever, right? Like that's what those interviews are for. They jammed both of them together and they waited so long that Dana Bash had no choice but to ask about like fracking. That should not be the interview where fracking comes up. And similarly here, they want to know more about her. These voters, the 25% of that New York Times Siena poll wants to know more about her. They shouldn't be learning about, well, I'm a middle class lady whose parents saved up, when she's trying to answer a question about the economy. Like when the question is, could I have done anything different about the economy? The first question should be, yes, I believe that there are things that we inherited that were unfair. Did every decision we make work out? We'll let the economists tell us. What I know about is what we're doing right now and what we plan to do when I get back in office. Answer that question. It's got to be 8 words, and then say, you want to know what, David? This reminds me a lot about when I was growing up in the middle class in Oakland. Like but they were so focused on, we need to know more, that she skipped the answer. And that was the thing that I noticed in the debate prep. She tended to have this habit. She had it again tonight, where she would give her prepared answer first, which was obviously not relating to the question. Right. And then she would answer the question.
Then she would pivot.
Here, she didn't even really do that. She would just gave the prepared answer and then didn't even, I don't know. It's just, it was an element of not feeling alive. And for Trump, you're totally right. I will subscribe to as low of a grade as anybody wants to give Trump for all of his debates, for all 7. Now that we have the Criterion collection of Trump debates all ready for people for Christmas, like
I'll take the bot set.
Exactly. We can say that they're as terrible as they want. What the one thing that nobody has a question of is that's that dude. That's not an act. He's that dude when he wakes up. He's that dude when he goes to sleep. That is him. And if this is a question of authenticity, then it's hard to compare the two. I think
you're right. And again, you're slowly but surely bringing me to your takeaway from this, but I am still very much a believer. Like I thought, again, there are going to be a lot of ads cut from this. There are going to be a lot. I mean, Kamala Harris has so much money. She spent, a couple $1,000s tonight on a drone show in Philadelphia. I can't wait to see the new and innovative ways that her campaign is going to spend all that money in the final weeks here.
To be a Democratic Party vendor. This is a bonanza the likes of which we have never seen.
We went into the wrong line of work by not buying a TV station in Philadelphia about 15 years ago. I am very interested to see what starts getting put into paid from this debate, especially from the Harris campaign, because they have a whole lot to go on, especially the question about Obamacare. The concept of a plan, I think, is something that is going to go maybe not TikTok viral, but definitely cable and broadcast viral in a 30-second spot. I really do fall back, though, on that first 20 minutes where she gave that very plain spoken, very forceful answer on abortion, on reproductive rights, and really put Trump on his bad heels very quickly, was able to prosecute that case. I think if voters take away, if you're one of those undecided voters who wanted to know more about Harris, watching that said a lot.
I have said throughout this entire campaign, regardless of who was at the top of the ticket, that it should be abortion in the morning, abortion at lunch, 3 times at dinner, say the word abortion, because that is the number one thing. If you look at the top 5 issues, they're losing on 4 of them. They're winning on 1, and it's abortion. Right. And so, you need to press that advantage. That has to be there. The thing that surprised me about the Pew Research poll that came out is that there's only like a 5 or 6 point gap between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris on abortion. Like that is not the old school, Democrats of even the like 90s and 2000s level of like, a strong pro-life candidate that you see a gigantic gulf. You see a wanting, like who's going to be better for abortion. It's like a 30-point gulf or whatever.
Right.
A lot of those were really, really close. And, we'll see what the results of this campaign are. But I wonder if I am Kamala Harris and Joe Biden before him or her, if the answer for Roe versus Wade falling being I'll sign a bill that comes through is enough. That Roe is on the ballot in the same way that it's been in all of these other elections, if that's enough. And I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if it's, hey, I'll always sign a bill when it comes through, but here's what's going to happen day one. I'm going to be on the ground campaigning state by state to make sure that we get this where we need to go state by state because these women can't wait, blah, blah, blah. Like that's, I wonder if they have a solution problem on that. And we'll see ultimately where this winds up coming out. But the fact that she was only like 5-6 point up in that Pew Research poll, like that to me was an alarm bell.
That's a great point. And I think you heard Trump try to articulate what you're trying to say as well, not as intelligently as you, but talking about how difficult it would be to restore Roe v. Wade in Congress. He had some line about, you want to go do Congress, go get Congress to try and find a bill. Why aren't you doing that right now? Which, again, kind of pokes a hole in that. But if voters don't get into the specifics like that, if they do just hear I want to restore the protections of Roe, which, again, every time it's been on the ballot in the last 2 years, voters
it's a winner.
Yeah, voters have supported either expanding access or protecting the access that they have right now. They do not want to restrict access. If Democrats can make that simple and effective message, that might be enough. But again, we're going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, especially when it's not the number one. The number one is the economy, and Donald Trump has like a 10-point lead on that.
But you and I both have seen that, like, while voters will put like the economy, the price of goods, immigration, security, crime as their top priorities, what motivates them to vote is different from sometimes those top priorities, or like the gap between how they see the two candidates on the issue. Which, to your point about the Pew Research poll, if it's that narrow, is it going to be that potent?
And here's the biggest thing that we don't know, and this is going to be the question that we're going to ask ourselves right up until November, is what is the universe of voters that's going to vote in this election? Because, I've seen a lot of people that are out here saying, okay, well, the polling error in 2020 was in favor of Trump. The polling error in 2022 was in favor of the Democrats. Here's the problem with that. Trump wasn't on the ballot. Trump picked a lot of people that were not great candidates that were on the ballot. And you could say that Republican ideas were on the ballot. Trump wasn't. There is a universe of voters that only votes for Donald Trump. It happened in 2016. It happened in 2020. One time it was enough to win.
It will happen in 2024.
It will happen. And one might argue that it might be more than it has because he is more popular now than he was in either of those two elections. So we'll see. The question is also then, does this move the needle in Pennsylvania? Does this move the needle in Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia? Kamala was not able to bait Trump into saying something mean about John McCain. I did notice that. She wanted him desperately to say something mean about John McCain. Very close. She's like, I can win Arizona if you call John McCain an asshole.
It was right there. There were so many points where she is towing him right to the line, and he's just not there.
All right, let me just empty the notebook here on the way out. Run, spot, run. That was one of the lines to explain how thin the Kamala soundbite. I'll tell you what, Chris Christie, obviously mortal enemy of Donald Trump now, but a very Chris Christie-esque line from Donald Trump. That's just a soundbite that they gave her to say, which very much echoes of Chris Christie's Marco Rubio. And then Something that I thought he probably could have made more of a meal out of. She switched to all of my ideas. I'm going to send her a MAGA hat.
That was good. That was pretty
That was
good
a good
line.
line. He had good lines. I mean, that's the thing is like, and this is what all right, let's end this. What's the point of debates? Because I think we got spoiled by Joe Biden dying on stage politically, that we're now like, there was a very cynical idea of debates don't matter. Everything's polarized. Nobody cares. Then Joe Biden's career ends and we're like, debates are really important again. Oh my
Debates
God,
are
this
bad,
happened.
baby. We're
Debates
so
are
bad.
What are debates to you?
The debates to me are all about contrasting yourself with your opponent. I really do think that voters, even if the universe of persuadable voters has shrunk abysmally in the nearly a decade that Donald Trump has been on the scene, I really do think that there is a utility to debates. It is about introducing yourself to voters. It is about contrasting yourself with your opponent. It is about, again, maybe I have too many, highfalutin ideas about these democratic institutions and everything, but I do think they do serve that sort of utility, and that outside of professional sporting events, debates still draw numbers, even if the total number has been declining a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised though if this one topped the 51 million that watched the first and only Biden Trump debate earlier this year. There is still an interest in them. I think there is still a utility to them. Now, you and I can argue all for the rest of the night about how they should be run format, so it's better information and not just kind of the stagecraft. But I do think that they are important ways for candidates to articulate their views, to articulate their differences, and make their case to the American people in ways that are not just a rally or a 30-second spot during your local news.
I think that they're incredibly important. I love them. I have always been a gigantic debate fan. I made a card game, Contender, the game of presidential debate, available on Amazon. I think now this was a really, really important thing because Kamala Harris has made herself scarce. And so that to me was the biggest thing of this. Rhetorically, boy, I think at some point someone's going to watch like Ross Perot and Bill Clinton and George H.W. Bush, and they're going to say like, holy crap, there's a real utility if we put work into this. Like, you can really make yourself look really awesome. All three of those. Go back and watch those debates. Those are great debates. They are really good. They're really well spoken. They really deal with issues, and they really are like kind of gritty. They get up into each other. Like, at some point, someone's going to take them seriously again. We're just not at that point. We are in the Visigoths have sacked Rome when it comes to the erudite element. We are gone from the Algonquin round table of presidential debates.
We're waiting for Constantinople to be rebuilt here. But I want to just put this to you to, again, I think this drives your point home about how more folks want to know more about Harris. Folks still want to know a lot more about Harris. Trump went to the post-debate spin room tonight.
Which is his move. He loves to do that.
This is the first time he's gone after a general election debate, though. He did that a lot.
He did it. He did it with Clinton.
Oh, he did? Oh, you're right. Yeah. You're so right. Sorry. Yes, you're so right.
Yeah.
You would not see Harris ever do something like that.
No.
And I think that's kind of what you're scratching at earlier about how she still has that layer around her. She still has that protective bubble that we can only go so deep with her, and that she would never subject herself to something as unscripted as the spin room here. And I think that's going to be something that a challenge the Harris campaign.
No, the only time that he didn't go to the spin room was either because COVID made no spin rooms, or that Joe Biden's brain fell out of his mouth. And so he was like, I think we'll just leave the brain on the floor.
No, you're absolutely correct.
All right. Kirk Bado, National Journal, Hotline Editor. Where can people find you?
Justin, they can find me at Kirk_Bado on Twitter. And they can also find me at nationaljournal.com, where we are putting out 2 newsletters every day. We got an edition coming out in several hours here, all recapping the primaries and the presidential debate from tonight. So be sure to check your inboxes for that. But thank you for having me, Justin.
And that'll wrap it up for us today. Politics, written and hosted by me, Justin Robert Young, for Dog and Pony Show Audio in Austin, Texas. Big thanks to Kirk Bado. This is prime time. This is playoffs for political journalists. For someone to take their time out of the day to come on this show, especially right after the debate, it means they love you, the audience. So big shout out to Mr. Kirk Bado. I'm going to take off this jacket for everybody watching us. This is going to be like the end of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, where I'm just kind of like slowly getting more comfortable. Of course, find us on TikTok, Justin R. Young, Instagram, Justin R. Young, Twitter, Justin R. Young. YouTube is Politics. Just go ahead and search for that. We are continuing to grow our great audience. And by the way, I did a solo YouTube video about bias, whether or not you think that I am biased in this election. I got a lot of good feedback on it. Go ahead and check it out. YouTube.com/politics. If you would like to get the audio version of this podcast, it is px3podcast.com. One-time donation on any of the following platforms. PayPal.me/paidjury. Venmo is Justin-Young-20. If you like debate coverage, Venmo money isn't real. Justin-Young-20. Cash App is PX3 Cash. You can send me anything you'd like in the mail. P.O. Box 153184, Austin, Texas 78715. Of course, you can always get our bonus content at TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Our $3 tier gets you 2 bonus podcasts per week covering all the news we miss on our free podcasting schedule. And our Titanic $10 tier gets your name read at the end of the show, like these fine folks, including Adam, Dr. Whiskey, CP, Sean, Phil, The Borge B, Nicholas, Whiskey Wolf, Sparky from Stevens, Florida, Will Porta, Fat Tony's PJs from New York, Devon the CFP, Gloria, my mom, Gray Zone, Peapod, Jay Van Ord, Markers with a Q, DP4 Bongo, Sam Murphy, John Niemeister, Edwin, and vote Gloria Young for King of the New World Order. Edison, Jeremy, a dog named Checker, Sarah, Jeannie, Matthew, Dr. G, Neil, his nerdiness, Charles, Audrey stole Adler's spot, Darren, Idris Arslani, and Bluefront and the Lenina, Berkeley, Stephen, Chad, Zombie Doc, Matt P, Chill, Adam, Chief Andy, Robert, Casey, Paul, Dustin, Brad, D Laser, Nick, Just Another Pilot, Middle-Aged Mike, Utah, Jimmy, Montana, The Jen, Alo, D, Really, Greg, and Andrew. Oh, we're in the end game now, friends. These are the episodes that you remember. These are the episodes with the news that lives for eternity. Do you want your name on that news? Do you want to support this show? Friends, only one place to go. TakePoliticsSeriously.com. We'll be back on Friday on the free feed where we are convening Tom LoBianco and Michael Cohen. This is our final furlough preview. Where is the lay of the land? Has anything changed? What are we looking for? And then, of course, for patrons, you get something on Thursday, too. Ooh. Till then, this is your old pal Justin Robert Young saying, some shows talk about politics, others talk about politics, and still more discuss politics. But this right here is the only show that dares discuss all 3.